we had rallied to the 20-day moving average, and we said yesterday if we took out those previous lows of this kind of sell-off, that would suggest that probably we're going to continue lower. And we actually did that yesterday morning. Here's what you need to know before the bell this morning. The market did sell off here a bit yesterday, and again, we kind of talked about two things yesterday in particular, when we were doing our morning market wrap, is that we had rallied to the 20-day moving average, and we said yesterday if we took out those previous lows of this kind of sell-off, that would suggest that probably we're going to continue lower. And we actually did that yesterday morning. We took out that previous low. Now, we did rally back into the end of the day, had some buying, so that was kind of positive. But we're still working this kind of clear trend towards that 50-day moving average. So again, the market's still under some selling pressure here. MACD sell signal in place. We're not deeply oversold yet on the relative strength index either. So again, there's still some more risk here that we could go a bit lower. Flipping over to the NASDAQ, which has kind of been the leader this year by a large degree. It actually came down and tested the 50-day moving average yesterday, bounced off of that. So that's on the tech side, that's actually a fairly good kind of look here. Again, not deeply oversold yet, is getting oversold here short term. MACD sell signal still clearly in place here. But again, that kind of pullback and support hold at the 50-day moving average for the NASDAQ is certainly encouraging. And again, that kind of really hinges right now on the on Apple kind of getting its act together. Apple recently reported earnings and had a fairly big sell-off. Apple cut right through the 50-day moving average on that gap lower when they reported earnings. Of course, earnings were not, fantastic stellar as everybody expected. This is one of those one-off companies that actually got punished for some bad earnings. Cut right through the 50-day moving average, did find a bit of support at the 100-day moving average yesterday. So really, this kind of position of the NASDAQ is going to be kind of hinged on whether or not Apple can get its act back together here or not. So Apple's such a big component of the NASDAQ index, also the S&P, but kind of more of a representation. We need to see Apple begin to improve here to help give the overall NASDAQ support. Apple is very oversold here, so if you've been looking for an opportunity to potentially add to your position in Apple, this may actually be a fairly decent place if it can continue to hold here. So again, if you break the 100-day moving average, the 200-day moving average for Apple is going to become much more important. Flipping back out of these kind of large mega cap stocks, which have really been the driver this year for the most part. And again, we've talked about this before, but when you start thinking about the overall market, this has really been a market driven by about 7 stocks, and that's the Apple, the Microsoft, and the Googles of the world. The small cap, mid cap index, which is the Russell 2000. It's turned over here with the rest of the markets. But again, we have to kind of zoom out. When you take a look at this this chart, we've got to back this up a bit, because you had a 20% decline in the market for the IWM last year along with the rest of the indexes. The problem is IWM has never gotten out. They've never gotten back into a bull market trend yet, much as, as opposed to the S&P 500, which has clearly been bullish since October. The small cap, mid cap index has literally gone nowhere. Has just been trading sideways. So again, this has still been a very bifurcated market of just 7 stocks for the most part, driving the overall indexes higher. And again, this is why it's important for Apple to find its footing here if the NASDAQ is going to kind of continue to hold up. But again, once you get below that big surface of those big mega cap companies and look at small and mid cap, they have really not participated in this. In fact, yesterday's sell-off took the IWM back, or the Russell 2000 back into a bear market. So again, very different stories of very different groups of stocks. Anyway, that's what you need to know before the bell this morning.